Welcome to another podcast in which we'll be talking about James Mahu's essay, The Sovereign Path. Sophia and Phil greet you from the microphone.
Hello to everyone.
You know what fascinates me, Phil? The idea that every single person's spiritual journey is completely unique, like a fingerprint of the soul. Today we're exploring why that might be more important than we ever realized.
That's such an intriguing way to look at it. And it really connects with this concept of what's being called the sovereign path. Can you tell me more about what that means, Sophia?
Well, imagine all the different spiritual and religious traditions in the world as rivers flowing into one vast ocean. What's fascinating is that this perspective suggests there's actually only one true path, but it's deeply personal and internal.
So you're saying that even though we see all these different belief systems, they're all potentially leading to the same destination.
Exactly right. And here's what's really mind-bending about it. Instead of seeing these different traditions as competing or contradicting each other, they're more like different languages describing the same fundamental truth.
That's really interesting, but how does someone actually navigate that? I mean, if you're someone who's grown up with one belief system and then encountered others.
Well, that's where this concept of the sovereign integral comes in. It's this fascinating idea that we're simultaneously both individual and unified with everything. Think of it like being both a unique wave and part of the entire ocean at the same time.
That's quite a profound way of looking at it. But let's get practical for a moment. How does this help someone who's feeling torn between different spiritual traditions?
Here's what's really liberating about this approach. It suggests that there's no need to reject or abandon our past spiritual experiences. Instead, every belief system we've encountered becomes part of our unique journey.
That must be incredibly reassuring for people who feel guilty about exploring different spiritual paths.
Oh, absolutely. And here's something even more fascinating. This perspective suggests that there's no such thing as wasted time or wrong turns on our spiritual journey. Every experience, even the ones that felt like mistakes, contributes to our understanding.
You know what this reminds me of? It's like how scientists now understand that quantum particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously. Could we be looking at something similar in spiritual development?
That's such an interesting parallel. And it leads us to this really important concept of what's called our local universe. The idea that each of us is actually creating our own reality through our beliefs and behaviors.
How exactly does that work? Are we talking about something like manifestation?
It's actually much deeper than simple manifestation. Think of it more like we're each creating our own unique lens through which we experience reality. And here's the key. This lens is constantly evolving as we grow and learn.
That's fascinating. But what about the practical challenges? How do we deal with seemingly contradictory beliefs?
Well, that's where this concept of imperfect, unconditional love comes in, and it's really revolutionary. Instead of trying to achieve some kind of perfect spiritual state, we're encouraged to embrace the imperfection of our journey.
That seems counterintuitive. Usually spiritual paths are all about reaching perfection, aren't they?
That's exactly what makes this so different. It suggests that imperfection isn't just inevitable, it's actually essential to the whole process. Because in an infinite universe with infinite possibilities, there can't be a single perfect way to express spirituality.
So how does this relate to those two fundamental questions you mentioned earlier about who we are and why we're here?
Those questions become like our North Star, but here's the twist. The answers aren't static, they evolve as we evolve. It's not about finding the final answer, it's about continuously deepening our understanding.
That's quite different from traditional religious approaches that often claim to have all the answers.
Exactly, and here's something really important about this path. It suggests that the very uniqueness of our journey is what makes it valuable. Our individual experiences and understanding contribute something essential to the whole.
How does someone start walking this path? Are there specific practices or guidelines?
That's one of the most beautiful aspects of this approach. It starts with a simple choice. Not a one-time decision, but a continuous series of choices to remain open to our own unique way of understanding and expressing spirituality.
That sounds both liberating and challenging at the same time.
Yes, and here's why. It requires us to trust our own inner guidance while staying humble enough to recognize that our understanding will always be evolving. It's about finding that balance between confidence in our path and openness to growth.
So what would you say to someone who's feeling stuck between different spiritual traditions right now?
I tell them that their confusion might actually be a sign that they're exactly where they need to be. That feeling of being between traditions could be the perfect starting point for discovering their own unique path.
That's really powerful. It turns what might feel like a problem into an opportunity.
Exactly. And here's something else that's really important to understand. This path suggests that the very act of questioning and seeking is sacred. It's not about arriving at some final destination, it's about the journey itself.
That must be incredibly freeing for people who've been struggling with spiritual guilt or uncertainty.
It really is. And you know what's fascinating? This approach actually suggests that our doubts and questions are just as valuable as our certainties. They're all part of our unique spiritual fingerprint.
That's such a different way of looking at spiritual development. Instead of trying to fit ourselves into an existing system, we're creating our own path.
Yes, while still remaining connected to the whole. That's the real magic of this perspective. It honors both our individuality and our unity with everything else. It's not either or, it's both and.
This feels like it could really change how people approach their spiritual journey.
Absolutely. And that's really the heart of what makes this so revolutionary. It's not about finding the right path anymore. It's about recognizing that our unique journey is the right path, precisely because it's uniquely ours.
That's beautiful. And it really speaks to where we are as a society right now, doesn't it? This need to honor both our individuality and our interconnectedness.
Yes, and perhaps that's exactly why this perspective is so relevant right now. In a world that often seems increasingly divided, it offers a way to embrace both unity and diversity simultaneously.
What a perfect way to wrap up our discussion today. Now it's up to the listeners to study the essay for themselves. It will certainly help them to understand the concept of sovereign integral in a deeper way. You can find the link in the text below the video.
Indeed, and remember, wherever you are on your spiritual journey right now, whether you're feeling certain or confused, grounded or lost, that's exactly where you need to be. It's all part of your unique sovereign path.
Phil and Sophia say goodbye from the microphone.
We look forward to hearing from you next time. Bye, Sophia.